I know they say to the victor goes the spoils, but some could learn how to win with some class. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet wins. We'll get to Kevin Schnall and apparently Jacob Morrison off to the MLB draft. We'll get to that as well. I did not think this was going to be the topic of the conversation, but it turns out I seem to be more popular with LSU fans than I thought I was going to be. If I get double digits, honestly, if I get double digits in comments, it's a lot. LSU fans didn't have anything better to do than celebrate their 8th national championship than come and comment with me. I have 275 comments. Now, some of those are mine because I commented back. That's how the way it counts. So I probably still have I still probably have half of those to go. I probably commented on that. Probably had 200 comments. I've replied to 75 of them, so I still have a few more to go. Some of them were very on point. All right, congratulations to Coastal. Some of them were very gracious. And also, let me say this. It's not about the players. It's not about the team. All right, I didn't even see what Jay Johnson and the team said, so I can't even comment on that. I have seen Jay Johnson talk in person. He is very gracious and professional. For the most part, it feels like the LSU players are fun-loving, right? When Jake Brown says, you know, we're here to play baseball and we're not scholars, and it's tongue-in-cheek, and his coach is laughing at him, they seem like good guys, all right? So this is not about the team, not about the players, all right? Again, I was there a little bit when they went on their run in 23. I don't really know them, but they seem like good people. This is about the fans. Make sure we understand that, okay? And some were dead on, all right? It was a close series. It was 1-0. It was 5-3. LSU made the plays. They came up with the clutch base hits. Coastal did not. Some pointed out, didn't necessarily have the stats right, but we're close enough. 0 for 10 runners in scoring position, 15 men left on base, a couple of defensive miscues. That's the difference in the series, right? Yes. Not many of those were made, all right? Others were like, I don't even know how Coastal got here. They didn't deserve to be here. How did Coastal get here? Well, you know what? How they got here? They went into Auburn and beat Auburn. And although Matt Moscona pooed that accomplishment, that's more than LSU did because LSU lost to Auburn in Auburn. You know, Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered, right? And, you know, he's been picking against Coastal the whole time because he's SEC guy. You know that Florida team that went into Coastal? You know how well they played into Coastal? They didn't even get to play Coastal. That's how badly they played. They didn't even get a chance to play Coastal. That's how bad they were. All right. They didn't play well. All right. Now, did that have something to do with LSU? Sure. That's the other thing. I'm not sitting here making excuses. Now, LSU fans don't like it when I point out that one team has a $10 million budget. The other team has a $4 million budget. One team is probably paying high 6 figures, close to 7 figures in NIL, and the other team is maybe paying $100,000 in NIL. All right. I'm not even saying that's bad. All right. I'm not even criticizing LSU in that. That's the way the game is played. If you can go out and buy your national championships, go out and buy your national championships. It's not going to say on the ring, bought national champions. It's not going to say on the banner, paid for by so-and-so. Not going to say it. All right. Doesn't bother me. You know, I want my Orange to do it. I can't tell you how upset I am that my Syracuse Orange has not gotten into the NIL game up until last year. And they won 10 ball games. No, go figure. In football anyways. So I don't care that LSU is doing that, But boy, I pointed out and someone goes, oh, now I'm making excuses. No excuse. That's the case. That's a fact. That's not an excuse. That's what it is. All right. I don't happen to think because they beat them because they paid for their players. Yes. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with, Derek Curiel getting a 1-0 pitch and hitting it back up the middle and coming through with a clutch 2-out base hit. That's Derek Curiel didn't come through because he may be getting some NIL money. Jacob Morrison didn't pitch as well. He says he pitched all year. Now, Matt Mascona would tell you that's because he's pitching against Sunbelt compared to pitching against SEC, and Derek Curiel faced the SEC. All right. That's what Mascona would tell you. I would tell you that the run differential was 3, and Coastal Carolina hung tough. A couple of people, and I find it hilarious. They're not necessarily wrong, but I do find it hilarious that Coastal Carolina didn't have a runner to third, except for the 3 runners who scored. Except for the home runs that Ianson gave up, Coastal Carolina never got a runner to third base. They had 3 guys who crossed home plate, but they never actually had a runner on at third base. They're not wrong, but it's funny. I find that funny. And there are some more brutal comments. Some were tongue-in-cheek. Someone kept on bringing comments, and the comments help me. The more people comment on it, the more people see it, the more views I get. All right. I do make a little bit on the podcast. I'm not going to hide from that. I don't get anything for clicks, though. I don't know what that's about. People think, the Southern Miss fans think I get something for clicks on Twitter. There's nothing to click when I put up a video. It's just listening to the video. All right. I don't I don't get anything for that. So, the more people comment, the better. So I comment back, usually try to be gracious. And we'll get into the Kevin Schnall thing here in a minute. But there is something to be winning, with some grace, and there wasn't a whole lot from it from LSU fans, right? I mean, they again, they were so, I don't want to say in my face. That's not the right phrase, but they were so down on Coastal. They're like, in both ways. And it's fun because some people call them out. You can't have it both ways. You can't say Coastal is trash and then, we just beat the 27 Yankees. That someone basically said that. Not my comment. Someone else did, right? I mean, which is it? Are you a great national champion, or did you just beat somebody who eked their way through, which they did not, right? They all right. Forget about the Sun Belt and forget about the Sun Belt Championship. Nobody had an easier path to Omaha than LSU, right? They didn't leave Baton Rouge. They had the easier regional, and they got West Virginia. They got a break with West Virginia, and they demolished West Virginia. They did. And I'm not making any excuses. I would tell you they could play this series again and again, and I don't think the outcome would change. This is not like this series went back and forth. This is not like, a couple of bloops fell in, right? I did say, I did come back at it, well, I don't think those home runs would have gone out if the wind wasn't blowing 22 miles per hour. And I did come back and say, well, do you think LSU would win if they would win the national championships if they weren't paying their players? See, that can work both ways. It doesn't matter. The wind was blowing out, so the ball went out, right? It happens in Yankee Stadium all the time. Wind doesn't have to blow out. You just have to pop it 310 feet down the right field line, right? Doesn't matter that LSU is paying their players. They won the national championship, all right? But again, like I said in yesterday's clip, right? A&M, Texas, Florida, Vanderbilt, Auburn, Alabama. They weren't playing in the national championship. Coastal Carolina was, all right? And they are at a severe disadvantage in terms of funding for their program. It is what it is. And they were on the same level, and they hung tough with LSU, all right? But there was no grace or class in winning. It was, we won, we're great, you stink. All right. All right. Okay. That's what it was. All right. Having said that, we continue with the Kevin Schnall controversy, which we discussed yesterday. We will continue to discuss that right after I tell you about FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach. I'm looking at futures anyways. You guys know I love this stuff. Sunbelt Championship game winner, James Madison, a plus 320. I mean, my underdog, they are not getting any love. And I'm trying to get Phil Steele on. We'll see how that goes. Arkansas State plus 2,400. We're going to play a little bit on that. I'm telling you that right now. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Record-setting views. And I'll thank everybody, including LSU fans. All right, I mean, to be honest with you, it's mostly LSU fans. I know what I get for the Sunbelt fans. It's mostly LSU fans. So I thank you. It was a record-setting week. Not by a little bit either. So it's going to be a record-setting month and a record-setting week. We'll get more into that later. All right. They were ripping Kevin Schnall to no end. All right. I do think Kevin does deserve a little bit of criticism. I do think he lost it a little bit. I do. His explanation was he didn't hear him. But when he did hear him, stepped back in the dugout and said, "You missed 3." And that was going to be the end of the conversation. That's when Angel said, "You're gone." All right. Angel Campos could have diffused, to me, Angel Campos could have diffused the situation and it would have been the end of it. Or the next time that Schnall said something, he absolutely would have deserved it. Campos just could have gone over and said, "Wait a second, just wait. You got your one time. I'm telling you, man to man, you got one time. This is it. I don't want to hear anything else. Okay? We understand each other. I'm going to walk away. If you say anything, I'm going to eject you. Just keep it to yourself. I'm going to do my job. You do yours. We hear any more, you're gone." That's not what happened. Now, then he got ejected. We saw what happened. Now, what are LSU fans doing? Well, they're comparing Kevin Schnall to Jay Johnson, who didn't get kicked out because of a replay of a hit batter. Well, guess exactly what happened to Kevin Schnall in Coastal Carolina against Oregon State. Same exact thing, except this was with the bases loaded, and it would have cost them a run, except Colby Thorndike came up with the bases loaded and knocked them all in anyway. But on 3-2 pitch, hit a batter, and would have knocked a run in. They went to replay, called him out. You think Kevin Schnall did anything? No, because it went to replay. There's nothing you can do. First of all, the umpire called it. Someone else checked it. There's nothing Kevin Schnall can do. There's nothing Jay Johnson can do. There's nothing anybody can do. That's the end of it. All right? Everybody understands that. Now people are comparing him to Kevin O'Sullivan. Talk about night and day. And I said, it's not apples to oranges. This is like apples and wedding bells. If you're not familiar, Kevin O'Sullivan had a little bit of a nutty, I believe, on Saturday. All right? They lost and had to play again the next day, and their game got pushed back by a grand total of an hour. 1 hour. The team was warming up. They were getting pushed back by an hour. Okay. The starting pitcher had not started to warm up, and he started yelling and screaming, not at the person who made the decision to move the time back, but the person who delivered the news, the NCAA rep, who I believe was a former Coastal Carolina coach. And that's what happened. And so he had a nutty. All right. I think he may have yelled at a couple of people, in fact. Again, not their decision. The NCAA rep, informed Kevin O'Sullivan of that decision. Very different situation from an umpire who's making bad calls to just passing along the information. All right. One is acting like a bully. The other one is trying to protect his team. Those are two different things. Kevin O'Sullivan's trying to intimidate the NCAA rep. Kevin Schnall is trying to protect his team. Those are two different things. All right. As far as I'm concerned. All right. And here's the other thing. Should be suspended, should be fired. They should be embarrassed. Universities should be embarrassed. That's not what's happening. Nope, not at all. You guys got it 100% wrong. All right. This is going to be a positive for Kevin Schnall. Now, I do think he lost his cool a little bit. I do. I think there is a time and a place to get thrown out of a baseball game, and in the first inning of the national championship game is not the time. There might be a time to light a fire under them, but that was not it. All right, so we agree on that point. But that is not the way they see it in Conway. They see it as he had the players back. The NCAA already retracted, I believe, the 2-game suspension. He may get suspended for the opener because when you get thrown out of one game, you get thrown out of the next. He got the extra game suspension for the umpiring bumping, but that was reviewed on replay, and obviously Kevin Schnall was correct. And so they know Kevin Schnall is going to reap the benefits of what has happened over the last 10 days. All right. Don't think that the players didn't see that one way. Right. And I guarantee you, if this was flipped, the LSU fans would be having a nutty. Guarantee you that. All right. I guarantee you. But because their guy acted one way, the same exact way that Kevin Schnall acted when the same play happened to him, but they're comparing a replay to balls and strikes. And Kevin Schnall heard the warning, went back in the dugout, said, you missed three, and then Campos ejected him. All right. Someone said this ain't Major League Baseball. You got that right. Major League Baseball fired Angel Campos for doing the same crap he did there. Someone showed a replay of him ejecting like the star Clemson player for yapping at a big play late in ball games. All right. And you know how I know I'm right? Kyle Peterson agreed with me. Chris Burke agreed with me. Chris Lowe from ESPN agreed with me. All right. That's how I know I'm right. All right. We do have news. All right. Brandon Dunn covers Coastal Carolina for local TV in Conway, South Carolina, or in that area, maybe Myrtle Beach. And we will report what he said. All right. We'll do that right after I will. Thank you. All right. Because it's a big thanks. All right. It was Thursday, giving a tour. And in between spots, notice that the views were skyrocketing. And again, that had to be the LSU fans. So I thank you. I will have more views this week than some months. I'm going to double what I did last month already this month, and we still have another week or so left. So I appreciate it. And for the most part, I appreciate some of the level-headed comments. All right. And there are some level-headed ones. Some of the back and forth is funny, which I said so. So I appreciate it. Appreciate the Sunbelt fans as well. And again, we're going to have some Sunbelt news. I don't have any to report, or else I would have reported it. But again, we got less than a week before Texas State has to go and something's holding something up. So I don't know what it is, but something's holding something up. But I do thank you. So we'll have a record-setting day. We had a record-setting day on Sunday. We will have a record-setting day on Monday, and we'll see what this one does on Tuesday. But it's amazing. So I appreciate it. Thank you oh so much. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt. Your teams every day. Okay, so let me see what I tweeted out. Okay, so Brandon Dunn does a great job of covering him. He's sports director, 26-year TV vet for WPDE ABC 15. Okay, he reported earlier in the day, would have been 2 Eastern time probably, that likely Coastal Carolina starting rotation, Jacob Morrison, Cam Flukey, Luke Jones, okay? Blake Barthol is coming back again for his umpteenth year of eligibility. He's back again. So I suggested, will Coastal be preseason top 10? This year, they were not preseason top 25, okay? They'll probably be preseason top 25. Going to be tough for a Sunbelt team to crack top 10. Okay. In the meantime, all right, between 2 and 8, Brandon Dunn messaged Jacob Morrison. Morrison did tell Brandon that he plans on being drafted and he will sign. All right. So Jacob Morrison is heading to the draft. They'll need to find another weekend starter. But if you're starting with Cam Flukey on Friday and Luke Jones on Saturday, you're off to a pretty good start. We'll see what they do in the portal. Now, I will say there is a difference. All right, this is, again, I have mentioned this. This is where college baseball and big league baseball are different. Because generally speaking, your 2 aces don't necessarily match up in big league baseball, except maybe opening day. Off days, rainouts, someone has an extra day, someone's getting an extra day of rest. It does not usually happen. Guess when it does happen? It happens all the time in college baseball. You're always going up against a Friday night starter. That's why I say everybody has a Friday night starter. Right? And so now we'll see, Flukey going up against the number 1 guy. Flukey pitched very well against LSU's number 1 guy. But he lost 1-0. All right. That's the problem. I know he's not going to be facing, obviously, LSU or Kate Anderson all the time. But that's the point, is that you have to be, that you're going to run into guys like that. So we'll see how Cam does. We'll see how Luke does. I guess he was the midweek guy. Started the Sunbelt Championship game in the tournament, and obviously pitched well enough to begin with for Coastal to win that ball game. All right. And so Jacob Morrison is off to the draft. We'll see how that plays out. And again, I believe that Kevin Schnall is going to load up on some transfers. Right? I don't think that's going to be a problem. I presume they have some guys that are going to get a chance that haven't. I don't think that Kevin Schnall is going to have a problem reloading for 2026. All right. Obviously, would have been nice to have Morrison back, and we'll see where he goes. All right. Moscona came on. We did the crossover. Thinks Flukey is going to be a first-round pick next season, and we saw him pitch extremely well. I mean, 95, 96 on the black. I mean, that is not easy to do. I mean, he did make. I mean, the guys in the booth said they didn't think Bear Jones was picking up the baseball, and then he said if you do a fastball, you gotta throw it high, and he did. He threw it tailing away over the belt, maybe even let her high, and Bear Jones is not the first guy to swing and miss pitch like that. There's very few people, the 2 guys off the top of my head, that caught up to high fastballs. I'm not even sure if Ortiz was a high fastball hitter, but Sheffield and Bonds were high fastball hitters. They could catch up with that. But think about those guys. Those are two of the best ever to do it. So nothing against Bear Jones. That's high fastballs are really tough to lay off of. And that's how good Cam Flukey is. Kyle Peterson said where the weakness was, and Flukey put it there. So we shall see. But overall, again, congratulations to Coastal Carolina. Regardless of what some LSU fans think, again, they did the Sun Belt proud. Again, it is going to be virtually impossible for a Sun Belt team to compete for a national championship in football. Just don't have the depth, don't have the bodies. Same thing for basketball, although not impossible. The 3-point shot makes that viable. Not likely, but possible. We saw FAU go on a run. So something like that can happen. But again, the Cajuns, I'm not sure if the Cajuns were one pitcher away from competing against A&M in that regional. And I guess you kind of need one more pitcher for a regional. I'd have to go back and think about it for a World Series, because you need less pitching for a super regional. It's only 2 out of 3. But for a World Series, in case you lose early on, which again, LSU and Coastal did not. Neither one of those teams did. Now, LSU got messed up a little bit because they had some rain. And, Ianson got wasted a little bit. But obviously that didn't affect him at all. So I'm wondering if the Cajuns had enough pitching last year. They didn't have enough pitching last season. They were one pitcher short to compete in the regional. Would that have been enough if they had one more arm? And I'm not just talking about, coming out of the bullpen. I'm talking about, solid, give me 5 or 6 innings arm. They ran out. That was the difference. If they'd beaten Texas, not to rehash this, but I just think they ended up in the regional final because of the timing of the thing. Texas was mentally and physically exhausted, losing to A&M. Then they had to come back and play the Cajuns, who were resting in their bed after beating Grambling. And they beat them. All right. Now, catcher had a great home run and a bat flip and had some good pitching. I'm not taking anything away from the Cajuns, but I think, to me, if you had flipped the outcomes, I think the Cajuns would have lost the second time around to Texas, whereas they beat them the second time around. More about the timing than necessarily talent. But they had enough pitching to get that far, but they needed one more arm, which is what Coastal Carolina had. They had Riley Eichhoff. That's the one more arm. They had the 2 arms. They needed 3. All right. We'll see if we had any more Sunbelt news coming out. I have done my monthly allotment. I don't want to stop with the momentum we have built. I do have some things going on Tuesday. I'm actually off, but we'll see if we get any news during the day. But otherwise, again, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a blast. The numbers, now I see why those SEC guys and the ACC guys and our Savannah Banana guy over at Big 12 and our Mavericks guy get such big numbers. And, it is a little taste of success. It's a bit addicting. I don't mind saying that. So I thank the LSU fans. Keep those comments coming. I think I may get a couple for this episode. All right. Thank you so much. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Enjoy your Monday. We'll be back again later in the week. Thank you.